Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Magical Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jez, and I'm thrilled you're joining us today for another fun-filled episode where we sprinkle a little magic on the world of business and leadership. Each week, we dive into fascinating topics that inspire and educate, all while keeping things lighthearted and enjoyable. Magical Learning has been running successfully as a training and facilitation company for over 20 years and has partnered with global thought leaders like Robin Sharma and John Mattone. So whether you're a seasoned leader, a budding entrepreneur, or just curious about how to make learning magical, there's something here for you. So grab your favorite drink, grab a snack, and sit back, because it's time for some magical learning. And today we are joined by Dr. Maria Camacho. But before we do that, we got to check in with the regular team. So let's check in with one of our facilitators and farmer extraordinaire, Al. Al, how's things?
Oh, it's been going fantastic. Thanks, Jez. Yeah, Renee and I got to catch up with Danette, who was up here on the Gold Coast for breakfast one morning, which was wonderful. And adventures out on the water. I've got a two-seater surf ski, and I've been looking for a mate to go paddling for a while and having trouble finding someone who likes adventure as much as I do. And I met Justin, who said, I'll go anywhere, do anything. And I thought, this is the guy. And we paddled down the creek and we went through the waves, turned around, came back in, and we caught the first wave, surfed it all the way back in. I'm thinking, how good is this? That's like the gold standard. It's what I've been after. We turned around and went back out, turned around, and this big 6-foot wave picked up. And I thought, this is it. This is as good as it gets. And Justin says, quick, jump. And he's over the side.
Al, I appreciate that you keep going into the ocean with these extreme sports style inventions, the e-foil we remember. There's many different ones, so I appreciate your resilience to keep going back out there,
I like
Al.
that, Jez. That's a good way of putting it.
Well, anyway, Al, we're so happy to have you on and excited to hear more about your extreme water sports in
Thanks,
future
Jeff.
episodes. No worries. Graham, our CEO, how are you going this week? How's things? And how have you been since the last time we checked in?
It's been a while. Good to be back again. All I had just revolving around in the back of my mind when Al was sharing that story was the Jaws theme track. And Al's mate bailed at the last minute because he saw the fin coming up out of the water, but I'm glad it didn't end that way. Wherever I've been, I have no idea. I'm in Canberra at the moment at a class, actually in person with human beings in the same room at the same time. I didn't know what to say. I can't deal with this 3D thing. It's just really weird, but it was a really nice change. Other than that, yeah, I'm good. Grateful to be online with everyone again.
Yes, great. And Al, it sounds like Graham's saying you're going to need the phrase, you're going to need a bigger boat somewhere to be said at some point on your next adventure. Danette, how are you going? Different background for you this week. Whereabouts are you broadcasting from?
I'm coming in from Dubai this morning, and it is this morning. It's 6:30 a.m. here. Yes, I'm over here. I've been here for nearly a week, heading back to Australia on tomorrow and then off to New Zealand on Monday. So a couple of weeks of travel. It was awesome to catch up with Al and Renee, and so having a great old time. And it's a balmy 30-something at 6:30 a.m. The weather's actually been awesome.
Well, we're excited that you're committed to the Magical Podcast this much to log in this early. It's great to have you on. And Maria Camacho, our guest for today. How's your week going before we get into anything?
My week's has gone. It's gone. It went very well, despite the fact that the weather has been getting colder and colder in Melbourne. Yeah, unfortunately. It happens every year.
Yes, and while you're saying your week is gone, we are recording this on a Friday. It's being released on a Monday. So Maria's whole week hasn't disappeared on a Monday. Don't worry. It's very much locked in. It's just this is the end of the week. So Maria, I'm also a Melbourneite. You're a Melbourneite. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself for listeners that may be interacting with you for the first time here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I have experience in design thinking. That's my field. Empathy today. We're going to talk about empathy. It's one little, not so little part of design thinking. So you'll learn a little bit about design thinking today through the topic of empathy. I have 30 years of experience. I've worked across academia, industry, consultancy, embedding these mindsets, ways of thinking in organizations, empathy, creativity, collaboration, creative problem solving basically is my thing. And I have a PhD in design thinking. So I'm Dr. Maria Camacho. And one of the most exciting things that I did regarding design thinking in the past was collaborate for 10 years with Stanford University, who has been one of the institutions at the forefront of developing what the world now calls design thinking, which is being taken as the approach to innovation that everybody has to take on now. And I've worked, I'm now leading my independent practice as a speaker and a corporate trainer on design thinking. And in the past, I've worked here in Australia with Westpac, with the Australian Department of Health and Aged Care, with Swinburne University. And before that, I was working in Colombia. So I've been in Australia for 11 years. I'm now, I have the double citizenship. And so my other half of life has happened back in Colombia, working as well in academia and industry, always in the same field.
Fantastic. Well, we're so excited to have you on today to chat about this because it's an amazing conversation. And before we even get into it, and I know Danette's questions will tee up some of this, but I was just wondering, how did you approach the topic of human connection in marketing through empathy? How did this really come up for you? Because it's a really interesting sort of lens.
Well, once we get into the topic, you'll see that it has a huge connection. Empathy as human connection for marketing and as an approach that comes from design thinking. Because empathy, we designers develop empathy because we are all about human-centeredness, starting with the human-centered design. So sometimes it's good to put it in a graphic. Like when I speak, I tend to stand on one side and say, you know, here is the business, here are your customers. And the thing with the business is that they stand here and look at the world from here and say and determine what the world needs standing here. But the customers are here and they're looking at your business over there and they're thinking, well, no, they think something entirely different from what you're thinking that they're thinking about you. So what I invite business people to do and people in marketing is to adopt the mindset of the customer, but moving to the other side. Just get yourself there where the customers are standing, where they live, where they thrive, where they suffer, whatever else. Just go there and see for yourself what their lives are like. So I call it a little bit like walk on the wild side. It is a little bit of a wild side for many people in industry because when we're working within an organization, we tend to be very organization centered, and every day we're being fed what's happening, the problems that we have as an organization, and we need this and we need that, and how can we be more innovative? How can we cover the needs of the customers? And we have a sense because of the marketing studies of what's happening. That's really good. However, most marketing studies are quantitative and they don't necessarily tell you that they're still looking from here. They're looking at the person that's here, they're looking from here. So you actually need to like go there, and that needs qualitative research and getting in there and speaking with the people long enough so that you learn something new about them, not something that you already sensed. So that's the kind of approach, and we learned that in design because when you're creating a new product or a new service, when it's entirely new, you want to innovate and you want to discover what is problem that or a need that the people have that hasn't still been covered well by any product or service or organization. And if you discover that, oh wow, that would be what they call nowadays a blue ocean, right? You discover somewhere that you can act that nobody has gotten into. But the only way to find those, what I call them the keys for innovation, the way to find those keys of innovation is to really go and do some deep qualitative research with your users and get yourself out there. You can have your team, a team, or you can hire somebody to do that for you. And often they have specialist people with in anthropology, because what we use is the methods of ethnography. And if you can send the people there, but still if you are the CEO or you're the director of marketing, get yourself out there as well. Like go and really see for yourself. Stand where the customers are standing, stand in their shoes. And it's a muscle that we develop as well. Like you don't instantly become empathetic. Well, we all have the capacity for empathy, of course, and it's a big potential that everyone has, but we can develop it a lot more so that we can become not judgmental, for example, of the people that we're looking at. If you need to design something for a group of people that you don't share their ideas of the world with, and you approach them with your own perception and with your bias, and you're going to be thinking, okay, let's go and see what these people need, but I already know that they're just wrong, completely wrong about the world, and I don't like them, then it's going to be impossible for you to empathize and to understand really deeply the whys why people are doing what they're doing, why people are choosing what they're choosing. So often marketing studies will tell you a lot about what people do and what people choose. They are not telling you why people do this or why people choose that. That's basically what you get, the kind of thing that you get, like a full, deep understanding so that you can identify, okay, here's the little point, the little magical point where I can tap into, and I'm going to do something for people that have this need.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, that tees us up for an amazing conversation. I think let's get right into it. So, Danette, do you want to ask us your questions here?
Thanks, Jez, and thanks, Maria. Maria, I always ask 2 questions. So my first one is, how would you describe human connection in relation to what you do? Because it sounds like it's super important.
It is super important. And the way I start talking about this with people in marketing is how much do you feel that you are connected with your audience, like really connected for real? A lot of people will say, yeah, we are very connected with our audience. We know a lot about them. But the thing is, there's studies that demonstrate that the reality is not that. In reality, people are not as connected as marketers think that they are connected with the company. And when we talk about connected, it is a lot of topic about loyalty. So long-term relationships with customers, right? Not just the one-off purchase of something, but the long-term connection. That's the one that needs the most human touch so that you can be for real, you can be genuine, you can be authentic for them. And in this time and day, customers are demanding more than ever, are demanding authenticity more than ever, and truth. They want to buy from companies that are transparent.
That's,
Answers a little bit.
that's a great answer. So then my follow-up to that is, how do we as businesses market our products and services through that empathy? So you're talking about authenticity and things like that. How do they go together? Tell us more.
Okay, yes. So the output, you could say, with the approach of design thinking, when you try to understand the real, genuine, underlying needs of people. So how does the business market its services and products through empathy? You're talking about the outcome of a process. You have the outcome of marketing can be a campaign, you can have advertising, you can have all sorts of different strategies to get to your customer. In my world, which is the design world, that's the output or the outcome of your process. And the process that you need to follow as a marketing person that wants to really genuinely connect with people would be the same one that a designer follows to design the services and products from the start. And that involves doing that qualitative research with your customers that I was talking about. So businesses that want to do a marketing that's more connected to the people that they serve, that connects their authenticity, their message, their brand, the truthfulness of it with their customers, they need to go and follow this process of understanding your customer. And that way your output, your marketing output, will be much more likely to succeed, because then you'll be genuinely tapping on the specific needs. And then you can also get a lot more creative, because you'll know something that you think, okay, this rings a bell, this bit about this person that we market to, we can tap into that, and then get creative about it. So yes.
That's a great answer, Maria. And I love that it's encouraging curiosity, but also that connection to actually go and talk to your customers and understand what's important for them. So thank you. Great answer.
And thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, loved that, Danette, and great questions there. Thank you, Maria, for that. Let's throw over to Graham. Graham, tell us about your question.
So, Maria, there's so many things going through my head at the moment. Some of them we definitely won't talk about because they're not really relevant, but that's just me. I'm really interested in this idea of design thinking, and I was then thinking that not only could you apply design thinking in how you build your marketing strategy and the processes around that, but how you might also then apply that to how you actually develop your services and products in the first place, which makes a lot more sense. I'm just curious, and this is sort of going to be potentially a free plug for somebody, whether you have an example of a more human-centric, empathy-driven marketing campaign from a company out there somewhere that you think ticks most of the boxes, is a good example of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Okay. So it would be hard for me to say if a campaign ticks the boxes without knowing what their objective was originally. I can see the effect, but I'm not sure if the effect was the desired effect of that organization or not. It can have a big effect on capturing, I don't know, baby's attention, but if what they wanted was to capture the parents' attention and not the baby's attention, then, you know. And talking about parents and babies, there's a project that I worked on for a brand that's called a brand that makes baby products for skincare. It's called Mustela. Probably all of you guys here don't know, haven't heard about it, then it maybe neither. It's a French brand. It exists in Australia as well, but it's a French brand that sells all over the world. And it's a classical one, like it's been going on forever, and they've never changed their packaging, their look, nothing. So they came to us to get some innovation into their marketing. Actually, marketing was part of the work, but they wanted to develop new packaging. They thought, let's develop packaging because that's what we think. That's what they were thinking was needed to innovate the packaging so that they could suddenly be seen a little bit different than the past 100 years or something. So they came to us with that, and we worked on that. But we did a lot of ethnography. We interviewed over 100 moms, dads, grandparents, and including the observation that goes with that. So observing parents while they did the diaper change, while they bathed the babies, applied creams for massage, all of these different rituals that happen between a parent and a baby. So we went and studied all of that, and that effectively led us to some good ideas about the bottles of the creams, because there's a lot of we realized that there's a lot of functionality that could be much better for the parent, especially because the parent and the baby, in the moment that the parent's applying the cream, the baby might be moving all over depending the age of the baby, and then the parent has the cream but has the diaper and has the whatever else they need at hand. But they can't stop looking at the baby because then the baby will fall off the table. So it's like sort of trying to work everything without seeing where things are. So we realized that, and we saw that, and we created some packaging that allowed hands-free sort of application and made it a lot easier logistically, let's say. But on the way, what we discovered, Mustela is a lot about that connection, precisely the connection between the parent and the baby. And we discovered that that connection is, yes, it's the importance of it. Yes, we definitely confirmed that it's an incredibly important moment in the development of the baby. And we tried to find ways with the bottle so that it would be easy. But we realized that the parent could get distracted in the moment that they were caring for the baby, and which distractions that came from stress. And that would cut the moment of connection. Even if the parent was there looking at the baby, their heads could be somewhere else. And they're worried because they might be first-time parents. They don't know. They feel unsure about everything that they're doing with their baby. And it's not just the moment that they're doing the diaper change or the bathing. It's about various moments throughout the day that they remember when they are there with the baby in the diaper. So we found how delicate these moments were, like so easy to break, very easy to break. And so we decided that we were going to work on tapping into that stress of the parents. How can we help parents to be more comfortable, more secure throughout the care of the baby and enjoy it more and be connected, better connected with the baby? And we ended up creating a kit, a box. It was a subscription box that the parents will receive. They subscribe, and the boxes, they'll receive it every trimester. And every trimester, the box has information about baby's developments for that age on the baby. Super graphic, super visual, really easy to understand. And it brings a few products, add-ons to the bottles, and other kinds of things that will make all of those moments easier for the parent. So for example, we designed something that you put on the cap of the bottle because the baby likes to grab the bottle. And then there's the danger that the cream will come out and the baby will eat the cream, and it stresses the parent. So what we designed for that was an add-on that's for after the third month, right? That was for one of the later stages, so that the baby will have a cap that is like a character. And so the bottle became like a character, and the bottle would be the body of the character. And so the baby would be like, oh yeah, and it was safe for the baby. So they could take part into the routine of their own care. And that was nice. And that happened because of those observations. We designed as well a little like a little environment for moms to change babies when they're on the go. It was a very little thing that would pop up like a tent, like those tents for the beach. It would, and it would create like a little like cave, let's say, for the baby and the mother to be there in that moment when their mother is changing the baby wherever, right? Because those, we realize as well, those moments are when they're on the go, those connection moments even more difficult to keep. So that was really, really, really nice. And so in the end, we developed the bottles, but the subscription kit became the thing that Mustela was most fascinated with, especially the marketing area, because it was basically like a ongoing marketing campaign for Mustela. And so it would bring more products of Mustela, and people could subscribe themselves, or somebody could gift the subscription to the parents, which was really nice. It also had a photo book that would come with photos that the parent would capture with the camera very easily with an application. Because parents will realize they take all these photos and then they never print them. They never they cannot do anything with them. So we solved that for them. So that was a way of doing some campaign without necessarily in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Maria. It's a great example of how a company's been able to identify a range of value adds and literally create a new product from going back to being more curious about, well, what are the things that are causing our customers pain, stress, anxiety, etc., and how do we address that? I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's true.
Well, yeah, I loved that example. Al, did you have a question here today? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your thoughts
Yes,
as
thanks,
well?
Jez. Maria, I'm sort of curious more around, I guess, the how of empathy. You mentioned earlier on about looking from the client's perspective and not being judgmental. I was wondering if you had some other sort of information there, please.
Yeah, for example, a project that we did with OP, a Finnish bank in Finland. They wanted to create new products and services for small and medium enterprises to connect with the bank, so to tap into the needs, specific needs of this segment. And we did the same, that we did the same process, right? We did some ethnographic research with the business owners, small business owners, here and there. And we found that their needs, well, first of all, their needs were much more complex than what we thought or what the bank was thinking in the beginning. And one of the initial prototypes, so your question prompted in my memory an initial prototype that we worked on, which we didn't pursue in the end, but led to opening up our minds. We thought, okay, people need accompaniment. They need advice more than anything. So that's something that we started with, a topic, and that specific topic was we continued with that thread all throughout the project. But in the beginning, we did some prototyping and we thought people who are busy at the business hours, how can you give them advice? And the banks are open at the same hour as the businesses are open. So how can we do that? So we ended up deciding, okay, why don't we create like the night advice bar for small and medium enterprises? And we created a prototype and we created like this space for businesses to come at night, well, in the evening or late afternoon, to come and receive advice in a relaxed manner after hours with experts on whatever they needed to learn a little bit more about the small business finances. So yeah, that was for example one of those cases.
Thanks, Maria. I can really see how connecting with that client is meeting their needs, which I guess in my language, it makes them feel special. It makes them feel like the product is there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the end, we designed a whole suite of a whole product, digital product that would serve the customer very well, because it was an application with lots of different bits and pieces that enabled these business owners to learn and to feel more secure about what they were doing, and very simple things. And also to learn more about opportunities for their business, because, for example, we designed something that with information, data would be fed into a map where the business is located, with information about other businesses around them in the same segment so they could understand who is their competition, for example. And so it had lots of bits and pieces that were very, very interesting.
Thanks, Maria. That answered my question beautifully.
Awesome. Maria, we're absolutely chugging along through the time, but I think we've got time for probably one more and then we can start doing some wrap-ups. We'll have to have you on again to get through some of these other questions because we've got some really good info here. We can end on mine here because this is something that I've noticed. I think that sometimes empathy can be weaponized, certainly in advertising campaigns, but also with marketing in general. Certainly with some ads that I've seen, it's like you watch like an emotional, intimate ad about like a father playing catch with his son, and then it's like it cuts to years later and they're still doing it as adults, and it's an emotionally gut-wrenching ad, and then you find out it's an ad for Fanta or something, and it feels like you've kind of been duped almost, like where they've tried to inject a lot of almost empathy into a product that feels almost quite sort of flippant and novel. I was just wondering if you've noticed this and if you feel like there's a line that should be drawn regarding what products should actually go for like trying to touch your heart with their campaigns.
Well, those are advertising techniques, right? So advertising is about persuasion, the science of persuasion, getting people to think in a way and feel in a way and do something, even if unconsciously, to become a fan of whatever product. What I would say to you is that human-centeredness, as the one that we bring from the design field, aims to be ethical. So it's a human-centeredness that you could call, some people, or you could call it humanity-centered or planet-centered, in the sense that you want to, at the end, what you want to achieve is good for the people. Ideally for all of the people that get affected or involved in this product or service. But that's what you want. Therefore, advertising does use ethnographic research. I sort of remember having read sometime a case study about a brand of vodka that they sent some guy to do ethnographic research into parties of young people and see what they were drinking and why, and just go to the parties and drink with them and act just like one of them to learn what was happening. And it was all about bringing information for advertising. I can't remember what the advert ended up being, but I sort of remember that the person did discover something that was great for advertising. Something that would really capture the ambient and energy of the people that drink vodka in those kinds of situations. So obviously you can use human-centered research and empathize to learn more about people so that you can persuade them, which is what advertising does. But we would say from the design thinking perspective, we really promote the more ethical and moral kind of empathy to produce products and services or outcomes of marketing in a way that genuinely tackles a need that is real. And yes, that it doesn't create a need, it's real. And yes, and it's not trying to manipulate the person to do something that would be harmful for them. But of course, that's a difficult topic because then you touch on ethics in general and ethics of advertising, and that is there's another line there that's difficult. But I understand that advertising has needs to achieve an outcome, and that's the way it works. So that's fine. Then they can use it. But I would just say if you want to really, really have that connection, especially if you want to have that loyalty, that long-term connection, you better be genuine and real and bring trustable products and services and marketing to your customers. But of course, the emotional is always like you can always capture hearts with emotional scenes. It might not be that creative though, because there are so many scenes out there that look similar or bring the similar kind of feelings of people that then people will just be like, I don't know anymore what the brand that's promoting this cute scene is. I don't know. Maybe you never realized it was Fanta.
Yeah, Maria, I think that really you've summarized a lot of really good things there. You've definitely made a good case, sort of the separation of marketing and advertising there, and sort of giving that as a bit of a brief explainer. But I think also more broadly, you touched on the exact reason why I asked this question, which was that I watched an ad break where I think there was 3 different ads that went for this exact same approach, and they were all for different sort of products like Oreo, Telstra was one, and I just saw them back to back, and I went, This seems like quite a lot. So you really touched on that right there at the end where you're saying that other people might be trying it and it's not super creative. But yeah, thank you for dipping into the world of your
Exactly.
advertising memories as well.
And if I can touch on something that leads to the connection between empathy and creativity, because so it's not just to empathize for the sake of it and just being empathic. So there's that connection between empathy and creativity in the sense, and especially this could be very important for marketing, because if yes, you empathize and say, oh yeah, people want to feel loved, yes, and then you produce a whole advertising campaign that is about love between father and child and whatever. But was it creative enough to differentiate something very important and special about that product? Because that product probably has a very genuine, authentic, very specific thing about it that differentiates it. That is not just love, right? It has to be a lot more specific so that we can get much better creative when we discover those little keys for innovation. When we're interviewing and observing real people, we get those keys for innovation, and then you can translate them into much more creative outputs for marketing or services or products, instead of just, okay, we empathize and we learn that the people need to feel happy and then everything is about happiness, but there's a bunch of brands that do the same, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And yeah, it definitely explains kind of why we're seeing this trend. So perfect. Well, like I said, we've been racing through these questions, but we've still got more for another time. So we're gonna have you back. But I did want to grab some final thoughts from everybody before we go and wrap up. So I might start with you, Al. Al, did you have any final thoughts today on the chat or the topic human connection in marketing through empathy?
Yeah, thank you so much for today, Maria. It's been great. And I guess my key takeaway is the story about the baby cream and how you've connected with what was important for the parents with that connection with their child. And then, like you say, you've created something new to enhance that connection. And I love the idea of the little tent for mum and bub to go for that place where they can maintain that connection away from the busy world. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Always good to see you. Excited to hear about your water adventures on the next group episode. Danette, did you have any final thoughts on today's conversation and human connection in marketing through empathy?
Love the whole, going to where the customer is, actually observing, talking to the customer to find that blue ocean space where no one else has been there. So they don't really see those possibilities to innovate. Yeah, so no, it's been a really great episode. So thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Danette.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danette. And thanks for tuning in so early from Dubai. We appreciate it. And Graham, did you have any final thoughts on today's conversation and human connection in marketing through empathy?
I do, Jess. Thanks. Maria, thank you for being on. It's been wonderful. And yeah, I agree. We definitely need to invite you back if you'll have us. I was thinking about the whole intention thing. I had for a long time, I've had this thing in the back of my head about business owners needing to be really clear on why the business exists, what they're trying to achieve. Why are we here? And that sort of needs to deepen when we think about this idea around marketing through empathy. Well, that's sort of what it feels like to me. So it's like it's one thing to have a company where we're creating a product that meets a need, but then the marketing side of that is digging deeper into, but how does that product really meet the need, and what do we know about the needs of our customers? It made sense in my head before I started talking, and I should have left it there, but I think you get what I mean. I was also really curious about some of the other things that I know you can't speak to, like using some of the AI-driven methods for collecting data to deepen our understanding of customers and use that in a business. A couple of other questions have popped up. I'm wondering, Maria, given that you're in Melbourne at the moment, commiserations, because it's Melbourne, whether you might be interested in spending a little bit of time on the Gold Coast where it's a lot warmer, because Al's looking for a surf ski partner. Just curious about that. But seriously, it's been great. It's been really good.
Yeah, and I just wanted to sort of piggyback off what you've been talking about today, how much of what you're saying is about approaching from almost a listening perspective. Like, it's asking the question to fill in the answer in a way. I think we've heard this on a previous episode that was more related to how governments distribute things, and how it's better to start by asking the question of the community as opposed to coming in with what you think they need. More times when you use it with the listening approach, you get the results that actually help people in a way that if you just sort of looked at the perspective, from an outside perspective, you're not going to find that same answer. So it connects again with things that we've kind of heard in the government space. Now you're saying it applies also through marketing and everything. So that's really amazing. Maria, before we get you to direct people to you, did you have any final thoughts on today's conversation and human connection in marketing through empathy?
Well, it's a delight because I speak a lot to design audiences, and that's great. Designers need to know more about design, yes. But I think design and design thinking have so much to bring to businesses, to business thinking. There's such huge value that can come from design-led activities like empathy and active listening and ethnography to understand the actual real needs of your customers, the genuine ones and the ones that are underlying, the ones that you don't just see happening. And there's techniques to try to get to those. So I encourage businesses in general, and I always do this, is my life objective, to promote the use of design-led approaches for business innovation and for business marketing, in the sense that you can connect so much better and in a way that's consistent and continuous and lasting with your customers if you really try to address their real needs in a creative way.
Fantastic. Well, Maria, I'm sure a lot of people listening to you now, they've just heard that part and gone, I need a designer to have a little fresh look at my business. So, Maria, did you want to direct people to any resources or the best place to contact you?
Yes, I would love people to contact me, especially those that come from the business world. Small, medium, large businesses, everyone can benefit so much from design thinking, which is, just a note, a little bit different from just saying, oh, it's a graphic designer or it's an industrial designer. It's the ways of thinking of design can be so valuable to you. And I invite you to visit my LinkedIn, which the handle is Maria Camacho Design, or you can just on the search bar put Dr. Maria Camacho and you'll find me and connect with my content. You're going to start to learn so much about how design can help your business to be more creative, more innovative, and to continue to go forward in this uncertain and ambiguous world that we're all navigating in these days. So I invite you to go to my LinkedIn and connect with me. And you can also write directly to me if you want, to maria@mariacamacho.com.
Perfect. Well, they'll all be in the podcast description, so you can go click those and go get yourself over to those places. Thank you, everybody, for being on. I appreciate everybody. It's great to have another group conversation. We're now over 6,500 subscribers, everybody, so very exciting. Chugging along very well. Thank you to everybody that's been sharing and listening. And as always, everybody, have a magical week.